Coming up on ParaTruth Reborn, we'll be talking to Rhonda Kuykendall-Jabari about her book, Burn and Brew Rituals, Incense Blends, and Cozy Drinks for balance, healing, and inner peace. Welcome to ParaTruth. What's up, everybody, and welcome to ParaTruth Reborn. My name is Eric.
And I'm Justin. And I have to say, welcome back to my co-host.
Thank you.
After very long stay.
Long time, I know. 8 weeks. It's kind of weird coming back after 8 weeks because there are things, and we talked about it this morning. I was forgetting little bits and pieces of what we normally do for the show. I say, hey, do I have to do this? Do we have to do? I sent you a recording, which we don't even do anymore. I forgot all about it. But anyway, today we have on a guest with us, and so we are very excited to welcome Rhonda Kuykendall-Jabari. Rhonda, welcome to ParaTruth Reborn.
Well, I'm excited to be here. Thank you so much.
Now, when it comes to your book, Burn and Brew Rituals, Incense Blends, and Cozy Drinks for balance, healing, and inner peace, what was it like? I guess in general, first, what was it that led you toward the ritual work and the holistic healing that led you toward this book?
That's something that built up over time. It became like a coping mechanism for me. Whenever I was stressed out, whenever I felt confused, whenever I felt like I needed guidance, I just kind of went back to that. I think part of it is, my grandfather was an earth guy. He was Native American and African American, and he was also a sharecropper, so he was very much in touch with the land. And just over the years, I learned that many people in my family do have not that many that are alive now, but in the past have done things like this. So I think I inherited this.
Okay.
And what made you want to write the book?
I had been in the practice of healing and guiding people, and I also read tarot, and it seemed like the next most logical step. I had notes everywhere, and I have far less time ahead of me than I have behind me, and I was like, how am I going to pass this information on and make sure that it lives long after I do? So a book was the best way.
Absolutely.
100%. And, people like Justin and I, we have a full library full of all kinds of various practices and belief systems and books on rituals. So it's really cool to be able to look back at some of these works, especially when we're doing our own ritual work and kind of get guidance on a lot of this too.
Yep. I tell you, yeah. And what I think my favorite thing about ritual work is that it can be as simple or as elaborate as your mood. So no matter what you're trying to do, as for some people, it's just, getting up in the morning, brushing your teeth and having a cup of coffee,
Yeah.
It's a whole, my altar is a ridiculous size. It's such like, I think it's like 6x4 or something like that. So, so when I want to get elaborate, I can go back there and do that work there. Otherwise, I'm here in my working studio.
Yeah. Well, I think that's something that's like a lot of people don't understand. They think it has to be all or nothing most of the time. Or if you're only doing a little bit, you need to stick with that little bit. I do wake up and have a cup of coffee on my couch in complete silence, usually first and foremost. But then there's days where I'm having coffee and I'm burning incense and I'm meditating, listening to the sounds around me, and it just depends on your mood and there is no right or wrong. It's just following your inner flow, finding that balance based on how you're feeling that particular day.
Yeah, exactly. And actually that this book is more of a reference book than anything else.
Okay.
Because I want everybody to feel free. We're kind of living at a time where there are all these gurus and experts and specialists and they'll tell you how to do what they have done, but it's different and it's definitely a very personalized and customized taste. So I'm like, well, I'll just throw all the elements at people and let them figure it out.
Sure. Well, and I think what's also really important, not that you can't, you know, teach this in any sort of manner, but I think having a book gives you a little more credibility because oftentimes there's references and there's a whole layout. Whereas on TikTok, we have so many people just throwing a bunch of stuff out there. It's like some of it lands, some of it doesn't. Is it even real? You know, some of these people are making up this stuff just for the views to make money and profit, you know. But then there's individuals like yourself who actually want to help people grow, become better individuals.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's a natural next step from the like, I'm coming I've been doing the one-on-one healing work for a long time and now I'm putting the word out there and positioning myself in a little bit of a different way as a guide. And hopefully, like I said, people will feel empowered to do it however they want to do it.
For sure.
Right.
Well, now, why do you think rituals have such a strong psychological and spiritual impact on people?
Oh, probably, and this is just me and my opinion talking. I think it's because we are more creatures of habit than anything. And a ritual is nothing if not a habit. And so it's something that every human can relate to, getting up and doing something every day or doing something the same way every time, knowing what to expect, setting a tone for yourself. It puts the onus of the energy back on you, but at the same time, it allows you to co-create whatever steps are coming next. And I think every person would love to be able to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, something that I've learned more and more over the years since we've been doing this show, well, since doing paranormal podcasting, um, is that intention has a lot to do with everything. But how important is it for intention when creating a ritual? Is it just as important no matter what you're doing?
I think so. I think we live in a constant state of, for lack of a better word, manifesting. And so you're intending all day long, whether you mean to or not. So in a ritual where you're trying to work toward a specific end, I think that intention is everything. Everything is driven by intention. Everything.
Mhm. Well, I've asked this to other people who, when we've talked about intention, um, how do you discern what is strictly intention, that is the manifestation of something, versus the concern of worrying about something too much and believing that might be common intention, even if you don't want it to be?
I think that that is what happens
Mhm.
all the time. That's the state we live in. And, so I don't know, I mean, if you say worrying about it and, I don't believe worrying and fixation does anything. I think intention is a learned skill. And so if it's more than hoping, but it's not obsessing
Mhm.
like worry is. But I really believe that we live in a constant state of manifesting our intentions, whether that's good or bad or indifferent. If you believe you can, you can. If you believe you can't, you can't.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, something that I started following I'm gonna say a very long time ago. It wasn't that long ago, but I started reading The Secret and realizing that they want to make it more of a if you say you're gonna have it, you're gonna have it type of thing, which is all intention. But I feel that there you have to put more power into it than just this is what's going to happen or this is happening to me right now and then it's going to come true. I feel there's a lot more to it to that. Is that true in your accounts?
Absolutely. I think that the piece that we often miss, and me too, because it's a practiced kind of a thing, is it's one of the best things I ever read. I think it might have been Abraham Hicks, but it's the feeling to feel as if, even before it happens. And that takes practice because our minds tell us that that's a lie. It's a lie. I don't have it yet. How can I feel it? How do I know?
Right.
So, yeah, but I think it's the feeling that makes it so.
Okay.
Well, do you think that feeling is dependent on whether it's a good feeling or bad feeling? Because like for example, we talked to somebody a couple months ago now who said that when what's the word? When it comes to intuition, for example, when it's something that's going to happen, you typically feel peace over it. Versus when it's something like worry, where you think something is intuitive, you feel anxiety over it, and therefore it isn't true. So do you think that kind of works the same way with intention? Like if you keep believing this thing is to happen, you're going to have peace over that thing happening. You're not going to be concerned about it. There's not going to be any worry like, oh, but what if it doesn't work out? It just is internal and you feel it and you know it's going to happen.
Gosh, those are such fine lines. Like all of that was so right. All of that is so closely linked.
Yeah.
I think that worry is wasted energy. That we're thrown about things that haven't even happened yet. I might stop breathing 2 minutes from now and I'm worried about tomorrow. So that whole worry piece to me, it is wasted energy. Does that mean I don't worry? No, absolutely not. But I think that intention, it is deliberate, but it can also be accidental.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now, back to the book, the something that I think a lot of people are going to ask themselves is, what are some beginner-friendly rituals people can start with today? Because I mean, there's a lot of rituals that get very, very in depth, and then there's some that you can start right away. I've even talked to different witchcraft practitioners and stuff like that as well, where and kind of like you had mentioned to us off air and even talking now, is that it's a beginner's guide in the sense that you can just look through it and then customize it. But are there specific rituals that people can just start out with?
Absolutely. Something, and and again, it can be as small or as elaborate as you like. As I think back to the day, like now this is me full time. So I have control over my time, but when I did not, things had to move quickly, especially when I was raising my son. So the biggest one for me was to bring intention into what I was already doing. You're interested in developing rituals. Look at what you already do every day. Do you brush your teeth? I talked about this with granddaughter Crow and Jenny C. Bell. But when you're brushing your teeth, you do that pretty much at the same time, the same way every day. Set an intention. Whatever you want it to be. I think the example that granddaughter Crow gave was, may my words be sweet, may they be intentional, but just pick one thing. All you need is one thing at a time. You don't have to lay out where you want to be 5 years from now. Leave that for the job interviews. So that you can just pick one thing that you want to work on. If you want to start out, for example, you're going into the office, maybe there's a toxic environment or someone there that you'd rather not engage with. Then when you get up in the morning, instead of just throwing on clothes to the last minute, running out the house, how about you just stop for a minute and ask to be able to either mitigate that energy or sidestep it altogether. I really do believe in invisibility. Like you can vibrate at a different frequency than the people that you don't want to be bothered with, and they will ignore you. So I think you can start with almost anything. And all you have to do is bring it to your attention. Now it's in the forefront of your mind, and we get into mindfulness throughout the day. Even if you write it down, look at it a couple of times, throughout the day to bring you back to that center again.
Right. We had granddaughter Crow on the show, so I hope she's doing well.
Yeah, I was with them a couple of weeks ago. That was the funnest interview ever. Of course, next to this one. Yeah.
Yeah, I've been seeing you've been doing the rounds on different shows, so that's awesome.
Yeah. I'm fortunate. I'm really blessed.
That's awesome. Good. So when it comes to intention and like kind of raising that vibrational awareness, how important is it, or is there some sort of um link to using crystals in such a practice? Because I know, like, for me, sometimes I can't focus very well at all. My mind is just naturally chaos. And so I tend to use black obsidian a lot to try and ward off or absorb negative energy and get that passed. So you were just talking about someone who maybe wants to go in and avoid certain energies. Is there time and place? Sorry, I was getting over a little bit of a cold. But is there a time and place where maybe crystals come into the practice uh, of these rituals?
I think you can bring anything into the practice that you like. I love
Mhm.
crystals, but I'm not by any stretch of the imagination a lapidary. So I probably have just this rudimentary knowledge and use of crystals.
Mhm.
But certainly you can bring that into it. And in some of the circles that I travel in, if you are a woman and you are shifting energy in any way, and this is maybe true for witches and healers and shamans and meditation guides. It's like we're carrying crystals in our bosom, even to help us to be at the vibration that we desire for that day.
Mm. Now, on the other side, as far as incense and aroma, how does that affect spiritual meditative states? Because I mean, aroma can bring you back to a specific memory, so it makes you wonder how it affects the spiritual side.
Um. Okay. So spiritual versus energy. I think that's a different conversation.
Okay.
Because it's about what it evokes. Um. What it evokes for you, and
Mhm.
what your invocation is. What does that smell do for you? What does that aroma do for you? Yes, there are some built in, we all know frankincense frankincense, myrrh, and what's the other one? Copal, really good for meditation, the earthy ones for grounding, you may do something else. But I think that a lot of it has to do with what that aroma brings up for you. And that's what happened with me. A lot of these things happened over time. It was developing when I was in college, for example, and everything was coconut and musk. And even though those aren't my very favorite go-tos right now, those scents still bring up certain feelings for me, which then lean into the attentions, which lead into the manifesting.
Sure.
So
And I think it also, like, when it comes to incense, it can also depend on the day, what you're feeling when, because I have like a whole little line of incense on my shelf that I can choose from. And in the morning, sometimes I'll open one and give it a smell. I'm like, yeah, not really feeling that today, and go
yeah.
to another until it just feels right. Um, and I think that's one of the cool things about incense too, is like you don't necessarily have to, um, you don't have to use frankincense in the means that it's normally used for.
Exactly.
Right, and
That's
that's
exactly what
one
I'm
of the
saying.
best things about it.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that that's really great. And I tell you, I got more incense that I will ever burn in the next 10 years. And so I've now gotten into the habit. I trust myself enough to just go into the space where I house my incense and just kind of allow my hand to choose.
Mhm.
Run my hand across the shelf and say, okay, this one. I sometimes I close my eyes and pick. And I think intuition comes into play a lot. And then I do a lot of pantry herbs and spices as well.
Okay.
Sometimes I'm not reaching for actual incense at all. I'm reaching for a bay leaf and writing, an intention on there and burning it, or rosemary needles, or, whatever I have in my spice cabinet.
Mhm.
Also, which makes it, I think, accessible to everybody. Everybody's got some kind of spices that they can reach for. So you don't have to go out and buy something specific, although that's a lot of fun. A lot of
Right.
fun. I do a lot of that. But but it's not really necessary. So
Right.
everyone has equal access.
Yeah, there's a simplicity to it overall if you really wanted to or needed to.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's funny that you bring up the whole going over the spices with your hands thing. That's how I choose crystals a lot of times. Is
Mm.
I have to either wave over them or even touch them to understand if that's the crystal that I need, or if somebody else needs it for that matter. I did that with my wife once when we went to a crystal shop, and I'm like, I think this is for you. I don't think this is for me.
Mhm. Oh my gosh. Funny story. When I took my very first Reiki class, there was a gentleman in the class that we rubbed each other the wrong way, which is very rare for me. But it was really not good. And so she instructed us to come in the next day and to bring a pendulum. And so I wanted to buy a particular pendulum. I went to a local crystal shop. I picked up a pendulum. That sucker did not work for me ever. It just stood there like it was just dead in the water. And then the guy picked it up and it swung like crazy. I just gave it to him. It's just simple. I guess that's for you. And we do. It can come through us, and it doesn't have to necessarily be for us.
Mm-hmm.
Well, now, what are some, if you don't mind sharing, what are some common misconceptions about ritual work?
Um, that it has to. Okay, I've had people say things like, "Oh, but I think they confuse ritual work with spell work, and it's all very similar: prayer, ritual, spell work. To me, it's all along the same spectrum. But people think we have to have like a rhyming incantation, like on Bewitched, or yeah, or that. Oh my God, I have to go out and buy supplies. I don't think any of that is true. You can look in your backyard, see what's there, or just do the act. Just create the habit.
Yeah.
It's that simple.
Oh, sure.
I think, like, for me, one thing I always believed for a long time is when it came to cutting ties with somebody or something. I believed I had to have all these things, a candle lit, the string, all this stuff to try to mimic this idea of cutting loose. But I learned that it's not that. It's all in the head. It's like it's all in the mind. And I can sit there and visually um, you know, think of cutting through an attachment that doesn't serve me.
It comes back to intention.
Comes back to intention, there's again, I've used this word a few times, simplicity behind it, but I think that's the best part about ritual work is the fact that it can be done anywhere and everywhere at any time. Walking
And
through the
anybody
store.
can do it.
Yeah, and it's I know a lot of people who get scared about it, who get nervous, like, oh, what if I do that? I might open a door, and they start to shift in this whole idea of the spiritual realm. And you know, obviously, depending on intention, what exactly you're doing, maybe, maybe, but
Yeah,
in most
and
cases,
because it's based on feeling, if that's what you're feeling, that might be
right.
what happens to you. So
Right. And in which case it's great to have people like you for people who've reached out to us over the years, just for a little bit of guidance. Like, will this happen? It's like, oh, we can explain to them why those people might experience those things and how to avoid those things.
yeah,
In most cases, that's not something you typically have to worry about.
yeah, exactly. I agree.
Well, and I'm going to out Eric on this to you. Everybody has heard this already, but Eric's had severe OCD for many, many, many years. So I feel ritualistic work is great for him because he's already doing rituals for the OCD side of things.
That's right.
This will actually guide him in a different direction instead of having those negative thoughts and having to do these rituals to make sure they don't happen. Instead, you're creating intention to do these rituals for positive things to happen. You don't have to think about those negative things.
So, Eric, does that make you feel more in control?
I mean, to an extent, yeah. Like I feel, the OCD in general, like it makes me have the need for control. Like everything always feels like it's spiraling. I turn off a light and I have a negative thought. I know better. I know that negative thought isn't going to come true, but there's a part in my brain that says, no, it's going to,
Sure.
and so I need to put that light switch back on. And I've had some pretty decent ticks over the years of, unfortunately, like causing pain to myself to try to get a thought out of my head, or flipping lights on and off, washing my hands until I'm raw and bleeding, things like that. So yeah, Justin's right. Like having the ability to kind of take these things that would normally cause the compulsions and use them in a way that allows me to better control them and manage them. Like using incense, I use that to try to clear my mind. And I try to think of some of these things that are negative, that I fear, because I try to have control over that fear and try to teach myself, like, look, you can have these thoughts and nothing's going to happen. You'll go on with the rest of your day just like you would have if you didn't have these thoughts. It's not always easy, and it's like, between the rituals, and of course I'm in therapy for help too, and, just need some guidance. And that's something, like, I think is very important for a lot. I think everyone should be in therapy to some extent. I think it's very helpful, but yeah, definitely doing the rituals has been beneficial, especially when I start to find myself spiraling.
And not to turn this into me interviewing you,
Hey,
but so what's your favorite crystal when you find yourself slipping into that zone? What brings you back?
I mean, my number one favorite crystal is and always has been the black obsidian. Uh,
Mhm.
there's just I relate to fire. I'm an Aries, and so I'll stare into a candle flame
Mhm.
for 30 minutes and just meditate on that flame. I'll hold that crystal near me and I feel like a rebalance. It's like it's heavy. It's heavy on my heart.
Mhm.
It's like a weight is being either pressed or lifted. But I do notice that when I'm wearing it, I have more clarity and I have more resistance toward some of these compulsions that I would typically give into.
That's great. Okay. Interesting.
Now, something that kind of goes back to the book and ritualism is the drinks, beverages that like tea and coffee. Um, how does that become part of your energetic or spiritual practice?
Well, for me, it was very natural because, as I shared with you before the show started, I get up at about 4 o'clock in the morning and my body craves, it's like just the act of getting something warm and comforting and doing this first thing in the morning. Um, my sisters and I'm from a family of five. So my sisters and I were really a coffee class for years and years and years. And so we would all get together and have coffee. And even those of us that didn't drink coffee started drinking coffee. But I think that the beverage piece is just about the water element, probably working through, adding something. You got the fire and the incense. You have, for me, the earth. I'm walking around barefoot, and a lot of times I'm sitting on my front stoop before the sun even comes up, getting grounded. And the water element, the emotion attached for me to something warm and comforting to drink. Like right now, it's hot. Today was a hot day in LA, and I'm still sitting here having a hot cup of coffee because it's soothing. So I think, but I think it can work just as well with cold beverages. I never do, anything cold, but I bet if you set the right intentions, it'll be the same.
Okay. Well, now, how do astrology and planetary influences connect with rituals?
Shoot, in all kinds of ways. I'm a Santeria. You know, so the astrology piece, and then now also human design, which is
Mhm.
growing in popularity. But I think that it's about how you listen, how you're guided. That's where, to me, astrology, moonology, those kinds of things come into play. It's like, what are you feeling based on how the planets are aligned and what's going on in the cosmos? Like everybody always talks about Mercury retrograde and feeling stuck at that time. And to me, that's not about being stuck. That's about being given downtime. My favorite astrologer is Patty Canson. And she would say, imagine that you have a giant uh, slingshot. And during Mercury retrograde, you're loading up what you want to whoosh forward when Mercury goes direct. So you use that downtime for to prepare and to build up energy in a certain way. But all of that that motion and changing not just your vibrational frequency, but the rate at which you're vibrating. To me, all of that is controlled and connected to the planetary alignments, sun, moon, and stars, and planets.
Okay.
Now, I've been fascinated with astrology at a very young age. And I find it fascinating that even through, looking through the book and what you're talking about now, that our lives are affected that much by planetary alignment. And I mean, there's a reason back in ancient culture we came up with the zodiac signs and we came up with astrology. Now, do you find that rituals can kind of enhance the things that if you're born under a certain sign, or even um where your sign aligns in the planetary alignment, can help?
Okay, if I'm understanding you correctly, I think yes, because for example, I'm a Cancer, so water and the moon, right?
Mm,
And so I do find, almost without even thinking about it, that what I'm guided and moved to do changes with, with the way that the planets are all
right.
positioned, and yeah, and the moon phase. Yeah, so absolutely yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And now, would you line up a specific ritual during a certain time of the year, or whatever is lining up with your sign?
I used to do a lot of that, not as much anymore, but I do plan on getting back to it. I just ran out of time because you can lose yourself.
I
Right?
say that a lot.
Yeah, and I mean, yeah, I'd like to spend all my time in that space, but I gotta eat. So so but yes, I did do a lot of that, and I want to get back to that. I find myself kind of sneaking in on other people that are doing that work, and it's like, oh, I didn't have to plan it, but I can just leap in right here. And and take advantage, and somebody else is doing the ritual. I'm just a participant like everybody else.
Right.
It makes it really convenient.
Yeah.
Well, and that's the hard part with those kind of things, because it does take time. You have to build out a schedule and follow the calendar and make sure everything's on point. I know a Reiki practitioner who does that regularly, and she'll show her calendar every once in a while on Instagram, and she's like, well, how do you relax? When do you relax? And like, what do it's like, geez, there's so much.
Yeah, that used to be me. But again, not so much anymore. That's a lot. That's a lot of planning. And excuse me, if that isn't how you earn your living, it can just become almost overwhelming. Yeah. So I want to build more of it into where I think I'm going as I age. Um, so that it doesn't feel like something extra. It's just what I would be doing anyway.
Right.
Well, and to kind of go off of that, my wife and I live off of our calendar because she owns her own business. She's a ceramicist and she does a lot of classes. And I'm super busy with not just work, but also my podcast. I also am a self-published author. So getting time, I should say making time to do things, is essential with the calendar. But I'm really hoping at some point we can get to the point where we don't have to rely on that calendar so much.
And then you
Yeah.
got people
Yeah.
me who are like, what day is it and what time is it?
Oh,
I
I do
have
that.
no
I do that. I hear you.
Wow.
is schedule.
I just I've been resistant to that kind of structured work once I started moving away from it.
Mm.
And now since the release of the book, now I've got podcasts, I've got appearances, I've got readings, and I'm finding that I have to go back to using it. I
Do it, yeah.
learned how to use Google Calendar, and make all the parts work together, my personal life and my tasks and family stuff and the book stuff, and it's a lot. I've got like 4 or 5 different calendars, but thank God for technology, right?
Right.
It's very helpful.
Well, now I've got a question for you then regarding intention, of course. Based on all of the appearances that you're making, the podcasts and the various interviews, like, was that built into your intention when writing the book, or is it just a result of the book being published and this kind of ripple effect?
My intention for this book is that it be a bestseller. Excuse me for being a capitalist, right? And that it that it becomes a meaningful contribution to my income. I mean, I'm nearing retirement age, and so that means something to me. And so I expected to have to do a lot of this. I didn't know what it was going to look like when I wrote the book. I was a full-time caregiver for my father, and that was everything. Everything had to revolve around that. So I didn't even know how it was going to happen, but I think that intention started moving things around. And I hope it doesn't sound morbid, but my father passed away about a year ago to create space for this leg of this work.
Mm-hmm. That doesn't sound morbid at all. I mean, it is a very sad thing to realize that somebody's dying, but also to realize that has to happen for something else to happen.
Yeah.
We die for a reason at a specific time.
Yeah. And he was almost 92. I mean,
Wow.
what kind?
I mean, he lived
Some selfish person will have to say, I want more time with it.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's awesome that he got that far. That,
Yeah.
there are plenty of people that can't say that they did.
Oh my God. He was never sick.
Wow.
Yeah. It's like he got sick and 3 days later he was gone.
Wow.
But till that time, he was strong. He had all his mental faculty. I couldn't ask for more. When I started feeling sad, that was the talk I had with myself. It's like, what else are you asking God for? My goodness.
Right.
Self-
Yeah, our neighbor is coming up on 94, fully functional. She has a hard time walking at times, but full cognitive ability. She treats us so well, and we've lucked out. But to see that somebody can get to 94 years old and still be 100% there, like,
Oh my God.
it's very rare, unfortunately, that happens.
I just lost my mother's older sister. She was 104. I mean, it's like these.
Your family lives long.
I know. I can't stop working yet, right?
Yeah, you got time.
I mean, my mother-in-law is 84. She would still be working if she could. She had retired when my father-in-law got sick and just stayed retired. But it's like, some people are just that way, where it's not that we have to work. It's just our mind is, we have to stay busy.
Yeah. 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 I certainly feel that way for myself. I'm living alone for the first time, and I got married. My husband died. I died with someone else. We had a son. We raised him in this house. Then just as he was leaving, I took in my dad. So I'm now in a space where I have 100% control of the space and my time and how I move around in it. And it's really something, because I think that people live so long because of miracle drugs. My mother is 88 and she's still with us. I'm like, what 65-year-old still has their mom, right?
Right.
So, but I think that long life thing is very interesting because you also run into, kind of getting back to the book and to rituals, you begin to see how your elders, they moved in a different way than we do, right? They
Absolutely. Yeah.
moved with the seasons, and even though they didn't call it that,
Right.
we learned that from them. I'm so glad that my parents have lived such a long time because when I was younger, I wasn't paying attention.
But 100%. Your grandmother's funeral.
This is why she did this at this time. This is
Right.
why he did this at
Right.
we get
My
to
grandmother's funeral, I said the same thing. Like, she was always asking 100 questions when we would come to visit, especially after I'd gotten older and moved away. And when she passed away, I felt a lot of regret not considering that she just wanted to know about my life. And that's hard to realize. And she did not live, he lived to 80, so that's still a very long life. But for somebody who's lived to 90, 100, over 100 years, we have to get as much information from them as we can.
Yeah. Yeah. I call it sitting at the feet of the elders every chance you get. Every chance. My mother and father broke up when I was very young. So when he moved in with me, I was 58, he was 85. And it was our first time living together, since I was 5 or 6 years old. We did not know each other. And I think to date, that is now my favorite season of my life, getting to know him in his own voice, through his own eyes. And a lot of that came through in ritual. When he first moved in, he was very, very strong. He moved in 2019, so before COVID. Um, we would get up every morning and enjoy a cup of coffee together and then put on our walking shoes. And, I would walk him every day for 2 miles and he would just talk and I would just listen. And I learned so much things about my family that I didn't know, things about him that I didn't know, um, his intentions, what he intended for his life to be versus what it turned out to be. All of that I got that in those last 6 years. So that's important time if you can get it.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, now jumping back into the book a little bit, what advice would you give someone skeptical but is curious about ritual work?
That's a hard question for me because I don't do skeptics. It's, it's not my job to convince you. If you look and you think I have something that you need, come and I'll give it freely. I don't do convincing, which is really crazy because in my other life, I was in sales, right? That's all he did was convince people. And maybe that's why I now have an aversion to it. But if you are curious and a skeptic, you need to do your own research. That's my number one rule. Figure it out. The internet is there. Everything is right there. AI is there. Ask your questions, and then find the place for you in that realm.
Yeah, fair enough.
Now, what role does consistency play in energetic or even spiritual growth?
Oh gosh. I think consistency is everything. Otherwise, your message about where you want to go, what you want to be, what you want to have, it's kind of like, and this is just me talking. I mean, this is no scientific evidence that I know of, but I always feel like I don't want the universe to be confused about what it is that I'm trying to do. So consistency is everything. If you want to rely on it, it needs to be able to rely on you. So
Okay.
Well, now, how can people create like a sacred space, even in a small apartment or in busy homes, especially, people who have families and they're just noise, noise, noise. What can people do to create those spaces?
all you need is a corner. All you need is a corner. Find a few things that are meaningful to you. I work a lot with my ancestors, and they come through a lot in my work. But so I have, pictures, I have old jewelry, I've got keys to open portals. But all it really takes is for you to find one dedicated space. And I say dedicated because when you want to do this kind of work, you want you want to be able to call up the energy and step into that room just like walking through a door. So that's the benefit of a dedicated place and that consistency that we're talking about. But start with anything. One crystal, one candle, and a matchbook, and then be guided from there.
Are there certain herbs or scents you personally connect with compared to like other people?
I love the smell and the feel of vanilla and coconut. I don't know what that is. Um, and good coconut is hard to find. Like coconut oil is almost always not not really
That's some sort of fish.
therapeutic grade.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. I just had a brain fit. But I really like earthy, rich, like I really like cinnamon and cardamom and marjoram. And, those are some of my favorite scents. And in terms of incense, I Palo Santo wood.
Mm.
I love I have so much Palo Santo and I burn it every single day. It's amazing. I just take and put it on a charcoal disc and let it smolder, until it fills up an entire room or the entire house. And so I think those are my favorites. Vanilla, Palo Santo. I like frankincense, but it's not necessarily appealing to a lot of people. But
Mm.
sandalwood, oh, I love sandalwood. Oh my God. See, now you got me going down the rabbit hole. And oud, oh, I love oud. Okay, that's it. Sandalwood
Are
or
you sure?
for instance, vanilla. That's it.
Oh goodness. Well, now, so with all of your rituals and your practices, spirituality, how has your understanding of healing changed over the years?
Oh my goodness. But with all of my spiritual and energetic practices and the work I do as a Reiki practitioner, I have learned so much about energy and how different people respond and react to different things. And it's not always the same.
Mhm.
Someone can do exactly what you do and get a totally different result. So the importance of leaning in and listening, really, like I really listen to my client. And I've even like I don't do tarot table readings anymore because I don't want the interruption of the people asking questions. Tell me what you want to know. Give me permission to tap into your energy and then let me do this. And now I even do my tarot readings of what I call Reiki prescriptions so that I can then give them exercises to do so that they can tap into the very next steps.
Wow,
Mm.
that's cool.
Yeah, that's one of my I'm right. That's my next book, I think, Reiki prescriptions. Like a physician's desk
Yeah.
reference.
Yeah. I like that. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Has your Reiki practice kind of formed your tarot practice?
Yes. Yeah,
How so?
absolutely. I think that I've gotten better at helping querents formulate questions because as a Reiki practitioner, I'm relating to people on a different level. And I'm more aware of, besides just whatever those seven, finances, romance, business, career, the
Right.
typical things. I think that I have a better idea of what people really want versus what they're able to verbalize.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Well, now, I think one question that a lot of people who maybe don't practice rituals very often, and maybe even concern themselves with, and we talked a little bit about it earlier, but um, can rituals become dangerous if done incorrectly? I know there's this whole idea behind spells being done, haphazardly and things not going quite the same or at
Mhm.
what they expected. Is that kind of what we also should be considering when doing rituals?
I don't feel that way. No, I don't. Because your ritual, it's your creation. Spell work is spell work is about you you making something happen.
Sure.
Ritual work is about attracting what you want to you. So to me that makes it a little bit different. And like when I remove me, it's the same thing as a Reiki practitioner. My number one job is to remain detached from the outcome because it's not my healing, it's the client's healing.
Mhm.
So when I'm able to do that, it removes anything to me that can go wrong. The analogy that I always draw is that it's like watering a garden. Um, the Reiki is the water. I'm just the person holding the hose, and the client is the garden.
Mhm.
And so as they absorb that water that's coming through the hose that they're actually pulling through, I'm just holding it, creating it, holding the space. As they absorb it, then it goes to the roots where it's mostly needed. And I feel the same way about ritual. if you can remove a deep attachment to an outcome and ask for what is the best outcome for everyone involved, I think it's pretty hard to go wrong with that.
Okay. Quick follow-up question, just candidly, but like, have you always believed to detach yourself from your clients and doing energy work, or is that something you had to learn kind of a hard way?
I think I knew I was always supposed to be doing it. But, and even, in my Reiki training, it was always, when you do Reiki, you shouldn't feel depleted because it's not your energy. I still get exhausted
Mhm.
when I do Reiki. I used to, when I was young and strong, I could do 7, 8 people a day. I don't allow myself to do any more than 3 people a day now because of how depleted I feel afterwards. But that depletion is not because I'm trying to control outcomes.
Sure.
So exactly why it is, I'm not sure. Cause I mean, I've read the books. Excuse me. I've read the books about the people that can do it and they just don't feel anything and they can just work and work and work for whatever reason. That's not me. And that's okay. It's okay. I just know that I have to pace myself. So yeah.
I did massage therapy years ago, and they taught you the same thing. You have to protect yourself because
Mhm.
I would do for clinic 4, 5 massages.
Mhm.
By the end of the day, I mean, it is a very physical job as well, but I was completely drained, and it's going beyond the physical.
Yes. Oh, yes. I mean, massage, I don't know how people do it. A lot of people thought when I said that, okay, I want to develop a service because I started out repping for a nature-based company. And then I said, okay, I'm getting older. I really would like to provide a service to go along with this. And I, a lot of people were like, oh, you should do massage. I already knew I was in my 40s. It's like, oh, no. That's hard work.
Completely different, yeah. Reiki and
Yeah.
massage is not the same thing.
But Reiki, as I've learned over the years, is surprisingly um hard on you physically if
Mm.
you're not paying attention to what you're doing. The way you hold yourself, just like massage therapists, you all have a posture, right? To
Yeah.
save your back and preserve your energy, use your thighs. We really, as practitioners in energy healing, should be doing the same thing. I talk about a lot of that in my certification class because people always assume, we kind of flippantly say, like I said, oh, my father died. Oh, when I'm praying for you, are you really? Because prayer is hard work.
Yeah.
So, or are you just, that's just what people say. And
Oh, right.
I know that it's very well intended, but the actual work, and people have said, oh, I have such and such going on. Will you send me some Reiki? I'm like, okay, know what you're asking me to do because I don't play with, it's like,
Right.
this is a whole thing for me. I'm gonna be at
Either you're gonna do it or you're not.
yeah,
Don't ask me for it if
exactly.
you're not, right.
And it's work. And so in my certification classes, one of my favorite things is when we get to the practice part because I get to really introduce people to what it is like. No student is certified by me unless they worked in my all-day Reiki clinic and treated at least 2 live clients with full-on Reiki sessions. We do 13 positions at 3 to 5 minutes each. And when we are in practice mode and people are holding one position for 3 minutes, 4 minutes, or 5 minutes, it feels like an eternity.
Yeah.
It's much more physical than people would assume.
Right.
Much more so. I lost you, Eric. Oh, you're muted.
Yeah, but that was my fault. My fault. I had a cough while you were talking, so I muted myself. Uh, we are getting close to the end of the show here. So I do one question I want to ask before there's 2 of them, but what do you hope readers take from this book ultimately?
My answer is always the same. I hope that people take this baby, that they fold pages back and scribble in the margins and put it on their bookshelf. And when your grandchildren come and clean out your space after you have transitioned, they go, gee, grandpa, grandma, uncle really was into this stuff. That's what I want people to do, to see themselves and feel themselves in these pages and to use it to better their lives. Yeah, it's my greatest wish.
And last question we ask everybody, where can everybody find you and find your work? We want to make sure that they can do that.
Thank you so much. My company name, my practice name is Wellness Uprising. So wellnessuprising.com this is a lot, or Rhonda Kuykendall-Jabari.com. If you happen to have my name in front of you and you can spell it, then that will get you there also. I'm also I haven't gone through the process of consolidating all of my online names. So, but I'm on Facebook. If you search me, my name is unique enough. I haven't yet met another Rhonda Kuykendall-Jabari. Search my name. You can find me on Instagram and Blue Sky and Threads and Facebook. TikTok is a whole other generation. Yeah. So I'm easy to find.
Awesome.
All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us, Rhonda. We are going to go ahead and let you go here. But again, just hang on in a little boat for us for a little bit here while we close out the show. But thank you for joining us. It's been
Thank you
a
for
pleasure.
having me. Yeah, it really was. Thanks, guys. This was fun. This was great.
It was. Thank you. All right. Bye-bye.
All right, folks, make sure you check out Burn and Brew Rituals by Rhonda. Amazing book, amazing guest. And it's one of those things where we get into our heads about a lot of stuff, but she puts it down here on how to do rituals and she even said it right here, how to make it your own, because I've heard this time and time again over the past few weeks now. Eric, if you haven't listened, a lot of our guests.
I haven't caught up to the last 3 weeks. I missed the last 3, unfortunately.
But several guests since you've been gone have said that. So, make it your own no matter what you're doing, spell work, rituals, stuff like that. So check it out. And I hope you guys enjoy it.
Yeah. Did you want to get any poll results or should we?
Yeah, we can do.
Cool. Let's do real quick. So we did do a poll here, and I'm no longer looking up here because my computer's not working properly. But we asked, go figure. We asked our ParaTruth community group to do you practice any form of personal ritual or spiritual routine? And so we had quite a few people chime in, and 71% said that they do daily. I don't know if I believe all of you, but maybe. I know some of you who chimed in on that. I don't. Okay,
maybe people are more OCD like you than you think.
Maybe. 14% said occasionally. Another 14% said I'm curious but new to it, and 1% said not at all. And it's rituals. They go beyond everything we just talked about here today. It's as simple as vacuuming daily, or washing dishes or clothes, doing laundry. A lot of things that help to reset balance. When I'm doing dishes, I hate doing dishes, but there's a clarity. I'm sitting and I'm thinking about things and I'm working through problems as I'm doing it,
and it talks about being in the shower too. And just that's a ritual in and of itself, but you're always constantly thinking, at least I am in the shower. Or I hate to say this, going to the bathroom. It's like, your mind has nothing to do but to roam and think about things. So you're constantly thinking, and that is kind of what ritual is and what it's about.
For sure. So anyway, this is the end of the show, guys. We want to personally invite you to become part of the ParaTruther community. So subscribe to ParaTruth Reborn on YouTube so you never miss live chats, and search the ParaTruther community on Facebook and join us tonight. We go beyond the broadcast with community posts, bonus content, guest question opportunities, and much more. So be sure to do that and join us, because we have a whole group on there that are chatting daily. So until next week, where you'll find us same time, same channel. My name is Eric.
And I'm Justin.
Peace.